Genji is one of the most popular heroes in Overwatch 2, and a lot has changed to him since the release of the game. Health bumps, damage nerfs, new heroes, and much more. So in today's video, not only am I going to teach you how to rank up with him, I'll also be showing you some hero interactions, essential combos, how his kit works, and teach you what your objective is on Genji. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into the video. Now the first thing that we should go over is the damage values and his abilities. First thing is his shurikens. Genji can hold up to 30 shurikens at once and shoots them 3 at a time, either in a straight line or in a fan. These shurikens do 27 damage each, and hitting all 3 of them at once will do 81 damage in total. The next ability is going to be his Swift Strike. This ability does 50 damage, dashes forward to about 15 meters. Those 15 meters are going to be pretty important for a combo I'm going to be talking about a little later, but getting any elimination with Genji will reset this cooldown immediately. One thing to note is that you don't have to be the one to kill them, as simply marking a target with a Swift Strike and having your teammates kill them will also reset the cooldown as well. Moving on from that, his next ability is Deflect. This ability is also on an 8-second cooldown, and when pressed will last for 2 seconds. You can also manually cancel it by pressing the deflect button again. This is essentially Genji's survivability tool, and you can also use it to save your own teammates or even deflect things like ultimates, which I'll get into a little later in the video. For his passive, he's able to wall climb and double jump. Then for the last of his abilities, he has the Dragon Blade. This ultimate lasts for 6 seconds and does 110 damage for each swing. One thing you might not know is that when popping Dragon Blade, you have a 30% speed boost, and each swing is around 5 meters of range. Now we're going to go into the combos, and the one thing that I want you guys to get drilled into your brain is fanning before anything that you do. This includes doing the dash, the deflect, and even popping your Dragon Blade. Now for the first combo, we're going to be doing a simple dash into a melee. Back then, this melee did 30 damage, but it got buffed up to 40 with all the health buffs. With that being said, the next combo is going to be a fan melee. Now back then, when people were still 200 HP, this wasn't able to one-shot, but now that it has 10 extra damage, you can one-shot Widowmakers alongside with Tracer. Anything above 200 HP will not be able to get one-shotted since, you know, math. The next one's going to be a fan dash melee, and if you only hit one shuriken, the total is going to appear up top, and hitting all 3 will look like this. Now this next combo is probably one that you've seen a lot of montages, but this is going to be a dash fan melee combo. Now this combo can one-shot 250 HP heroes, and the way to do this is while you're in the middle of the dash, you want to already be holding the fan button and then the melee. And this combo will require a lot of good positioning and timing, as you need to be exactly 15 meters apart to land every single part of this combo. So I really recommend going to the training range and kind of just practice this spacing, as I'm kind of doing right here. Now for this last combo I'm going to show you, it involves the fan melee combo. But what you might notice is that if you try to dash after the melee, it won't do it and will be delayed. But there's actually a way to get around this. Now to do the combo that you're seeing on screen right now, what you want to do is start with the fan melee and then wall climb to cancel the buffer, then dash to the floor and then do a fan melee again. Now to be honest, this does a lot of damage and I was just too lazy to add this up. So if you want to do the math for me, feel free to comment down below how much it all adds up to, headshot or not. But now we're moving on to the Dragon Blade. So as I mentioned before, the Dragon Blade does 110 damage per swing. And doing some quick maths, it adds up to 220, and then adding a dash will make it 270. Now back then, when everyone was 200 HP, I recommended that you only swing twice instead of wasting your dash, since it killed in the same amount of time and you still have your escape tool. But now it takes up to 3 swings to kill anybody, and anyone with a decent reaction time can react to that and get healing in the middle of it. And on top of that, damage boost or not, it took 2 swings regardless to kill anybody. And unless you had 2 e-girls sucking your wiener and giving you a nano boost and a damage boost, the slash dash combo is dead. And now it's still kinda like that. But with the recent changes making a lot of heroes 225 HP, Nano Blade is back on the menu. 225 HP heroes can now be slash dashed with nano boost. Now this is specifically with nano boost since Mercy's damage amp isn't as strong as a whole ultimate as it should be, but I just wanted to mention this since back then damage boost did allow Genji to slash dash. And now before we move on to the interactions with deflect, let me show you a couple of little tricks. Now I've seen a lot of newer Genji players tend to dash past their target, but there's actually a really simple way to avoid this, and that is dashing at their feet. Now dashing at their feet doesn't even let you miss out on any damage, as you can still get the damage in and you still have a window to sneak in a combo like the fan melee. This can not only be useful in Genji's neutral game, but as well as when you're using his Dragon Blade. Another habit that I would really recommend is saving your double jump when you pop Blade. I say save your double jump as while you're popping Blade, you're very susceptible to things like sleep, rock, and any stun abilities as you're unsheathing your blade and that animation takes a bit of time. So having your double jump available to you is pretty useful, as you can dodge while you're unsheathing your blade. And then on top of that, if you can, I would also save your deflect, as a lot of Genjis tend to forget that you can deflect in the middle of blade. And it might be because you only have 6 seconds to swing and you'd rather swing instead of deflecting, but survivability is the #1 thing that you should prioritize rather than getting a couple of swings. Then the last thing that I want to mention before moving on to the next section is when to dash. You want to be dashing in when an enemy is around this 2-bar mark. This is when they're killable by your dash, and if they're still up, you can add a melee or a shuriken to finish the job and get out safely with your dash since you got the kill. Now with those little tips being said, let's move on to the interactions with deflect. Now the most important thing with Genji's deflect that you should know is that you cannot deflect any beams, but you can deflect pretty much most of the projectiles, ultimates, and negate melee damage, with a good amount of exceptions. Some of these include Sigma Rock, Doom Punch, Junker Queen ult, Orisa Javelin Spin, and any AoE splash damage such as Pile Drive, Winston Pounce, and most of the splash damage from explosives. Now you might be asking, vpizz, why the hell would I deflect a melee if I don't get anything out of it? Well, deflecting things like Ryan swings or Winston ultimate swings can actually just buy you some time to get your dash back or get some heals. Now with all that being said, I do want to mention a couple of key interactions with certain heroes. First one being Cassidy. Now at this point, this guy's nade has been changed like 6 million times, but now we sort of have the old flashbang. And while yes, you can deflect his flashbang, a lot of cast players will simply throw it above your deflect or to the side, which prevents you from dashing away or doing anything, which kind of leaves you stuck in checkmate. So I really recommend that if the Cassidy player doesn't know about that trick, I wouldn't recommend pushing him until he has that ability out. On top of that, a lot of Ana players do the same thing. They'll usually just look at the floor and splash nade you, which will prevent you from getting any healing, and it does a buttload of damage. The second thing about Cassidy is high noon deflection timing. Now you won't be able to kill Cassidy unless he's really low health, but when he pops it and says it's high noon, around the end of high is when you should be deflecting. Moving on to Echo, the key thing that I really want to point out is when she goes into her copy. Now if she does copy into you and you kill her copy using a dash, you must know that killing her copy with your dash will not reset your dash. So keep that in mind. Some little things to note is that going against Ashe or Junkrat, they can detonate their explosive before it hits your deflect, and Lucio Boop and Brig Bash ignore your deflect and still does damage to you, so be careful of that as well. Now, to prevent you from getting diffed by another Genji, there are some key things that you need to know. If the other Genji deflects, he cannot deflect your dash, so dashing into his deflect is free damage. On top of that, if the Genji deflects first, you can throw shurikens into his deflect and then you deflect immediately. Since you deflected second, his deflect is gonna end first, which will make all the shurikens that you threw at him go into his face. And then the last thing to not get diffed is that if the Genji tries to solo blade you and you have deflect, you can waste 2 seconds of his time just swinging at nothing. And if you have dash, I mean, you can just get out of there if he's already wasted it. And this is just a little bonus for y'all, but you can deflect healing items. And while impractical, it's pretty funny. You can deflect things like a Lari healing pylon, the Life Weaver healing, Kiriko's paper, and the Baptiste healing grenades. But now that I've info dumped all of this crap into your brain, how do I use all of it? Now, the one thing that Genji is really good at is punishing characters that are out of position. Since Genji is a very high mobility character and he can take high ground pretty easily without wasting on any of his cooldowns, you should be taking advantage of this and taking off angles and so on. Now, what do I mean by off angles? Well, this basically means you're playing to the side of your team and trying to get people to look at you while staying alive at the same time. Doing this allows you to take pressure off of your front line, which allows your team to walk in more easily, because the enemy team will have to either decide to deal with the annoying mosquito being you, or the front line that is your team. And if they choose your team, this is where taking that off angle will play a big part, as you can basically do whatever the hell you want to their backline as they're so focused on your front line. Now, if that sounds like a lot of jibber jabber, let me go over this clip so it makes a little bit more sense to you. On this map, usually a lot of people just tend to go down straight to the middle, and I see that the whole enemy team is grouped up on here. So in order for my team to cross safely without dying to poke, I myself have to be the one to make some space. And I know I have my dash and my deflect, and they all bit the bait after getting hit with the dash. This opens an opportunity for my diva to make a play, and she gets a kill on the Zen. And because of that off angle that I took, it gave me and my team better opportunities to secure picks. Now, I really want to repeat this since back in the day I did a lot of VOD reviewing, and this is a very common issue that you and a lot of other Genji mains might have a problem with, and that is playing like a Cassidy. Now, it should be very obvious that Genji does not do a lot of upfront damage such as the other hit scan heroes or any other projectile heroes like Hanzo. So playing behind a shield won't do you any good. You need to, and I repeat, you need to take off angles to succeed on Genji. And while you take these off angles, you need to do your very best to stay alive in those positions so that you can build space for your team. Now, eventually, while you're doing that, you'll build ult, and you might be asking, well, how do I use this wet noodle? Now, to be honest, I can't give you a straight answer since I low-key be getting dicked down sometimes when I pull this thing out, and it happens to the best of us, even necros. But the way that people like necros get these huge blade clips is by watching people's cooldowns. Now, a lot of newer Genjis tend to just think that this thing turns you into a god and you'll slay everyone, when that's literally the complete opposite. As if you think about it, you going in first will bring all the attention to you since you're screaming a bunch of Japanese words. And people hate hearing that, so you're gonna get shot down. So instead of using the blade to start a fight, you want to use it in the middle of a fight. As if someone like a Winston or a Diva engages first and eats all the cooldowns like an Ana Sleep Dart, Kiriko Suzu, and so on, this makes your job that much easier, as you can literally pop a fan on someone to get them low and swing once to kill them, and they're all distracted on your tank. So this gives you free reign on their backline or whatever you're swinging at. On top of that, you should be picking ideal targets as well. For example, in the middle of the fight, if you see like a Kiriko use Suzu or TP, a Moira fade, you should be going for that Moira first, as waiting any longer and she could get that fade back and escape your blade. And now lastly, on how to play the damn hero, you need to not be a pussy, but also staying alive at the same time. Playing a passive Genji won't get anything done for you and your team. Someone has to be there to confirm the low targets and be the one to take pressure off your team. And with that being said, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much. Genji is a hero that I put a lot of hours to get good at, and I just want to share my pain and knowledge to you guys so that you don't have to deal with it as well. So if you really enjoyed and learned a lot from this video, make sure to like, sub, and comment down below your favorite part of the video. And make sure to practice your one-shot combos and new things with blading or whatnot, since you can't get better at doing the one-shot without doing the one-shot. So with that being said, as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Peace and love, baby.